I'm back, y'all. Welcome to Watching the Basement. I'm Franklin,
Tristan.
Marcy.
and we are watching the basement. Like I said before, I'm happy to be back. Last week I missed out, and Tristan and Marcy held it down for me, man. I appreciate y'all. This is the season finale of 1923, episode 8. I thought it was 10, but it's really 8 episodes. So I'm really disheartened right now. Episode 8 is called Nothing Left to Lose. And this shit had every sense of a cliffhanger slash finale in it. Like there are so many like untied storylines here. Like the big payoff that was hoping to see was with certain characters didn't come yet. Tristan, what was your thoughts on the finale?
I thought the finale was more dramatic the first time I watched it. The second time, like I just kind of noticed that a lot of the scenes, kind of run quickly, with not a lot of meat to them, which lets me know that this entire finale was set up to get us to the end. Obviously that was both on the Yellowstone and on the seas. Like those were the two things that they really wanted us to see. But I mean, I thought it was a really good finale. I thought that it leaves us with definitely some cliffhangers, and just some things to continue that we're just gonna have to continue hoping for, which is of course Spencer's return and whether he unites with Alex. Like, let me tell you what I hate about this show. Let me tell you what I hate about this show. It does so much to like give us this, not perfect, but like just this beautiful romance. And it does everything to like make us not even believe that it's gonna actually work out. I'm gonna like see it through. And it's
if it's even worth it.
Exactly. Like, and I hate it, but it's the thing that keeps pulling me even closer to this show, man. But love the finale. Hate that we gotta wait for like you, I was hoping, was wishing that this would be 10 episodes, and that we would see some things get finalized and resolved. But on to season 2.
Marcy, give me your thoughts. I know we talked about a little bit last night.
This shit was depressing. So I spent all of my Saturday watching Dateline. So not good. And then I saw this on Sunday and I'm like, this is more depressing than watching like a full day of like real life, like murders and betrayal. Like this was like worse. But I agree with Tristan. It was a good finale. Like it wasn't a bad episode. It did leave a lot of cliffhangers. So I'm assuming that Taylor, by the time he was writing this finale, knew that they were going to get a season 2. Because otherwise, if like we didn't know there was a season 2 coming, I would be super pissed because I'd be like, are you going to finish up the story? But from what I've read, season 2 is going to start shooting soon this spring. So hopefully we'll have some of these answers by the end of this year, early next year. But yeah, there's pretty much, it was all cliffhangers.
Yeah, I love the dramatic flair of it. I like Tristan. I watched it twice too. The first time I watched it with the mindset of I thought it was 10 episodes, and then when I realized it was only 8, I watched it the second time around, and I was disappointed in a way because there are so many storylines here that if you don't wrap this shit up soon, as far as like certain storylines, I don't know what the payoff is. And this is going to lead to my point about Teonna Rainwater. So when we see Teonna Rainwater, she's on the run with her father and now her new lover, Hank's son, who Hank died in the previous episode. The Hank is gone now, but they're running to the Comanche reservation. So, that's fine. But it seemed like the deputies and the marshal and Father Renaud now know that they're going to the Comanche reservation and they're going by train. So if season 2, if they end up there and they end up meeting each other and they're Tiona and her father they're already undermanned, what is the payoff there? And on top of that, this better be Thomas Rainwater's ancestor, because we still don't know if that's officially his ancestor. This could be a different family bloodline. So if it's not his ancestor and they die come the next season, at the hands of Father Renal, what's the whole point of that of that storyline other than to tell us, hey, Native Americans really got fucked off during this time period. Let me show you why, and let me show you how. If that's what you're trying to like impose on us, that's very poor writing. So I'm hoping that something comes out of this. Tristan, go ahead.
No, I would very much like to believe that it wouldn't introduce Teonna and have her go through all of this just to kill her off at the beginning of season 2. Like I think her story is much bigger than. I'm hopeful, very hopeful that her story is much bigger than the pain she's inflicted to get to this point, and probably the further pain and trauma that she's going to have to go through to get to wherever her destination is. But and I'm assuming they wouldn't introduce her at all if she wasn't Thomas Rainwater's, ancestor in some type of way. Like there's definitely a connection that Taylor is trying to get across between that specific family and the Rainwater. So, but yeah, like I think there's more to it. I think we need to see what she's like in her, in an environment with people who are like her, right? With people who have her best interests, people who are not thinking of her as like a captive. You know what I'm saying? Like how does she act outside of captivity? How does this this line, this descendancy that gets to Thomas Rainwater, how does that begin? Is that with Pete? Is it not? I think Teonna, there's much more that we have with Teonna. I think is eventually going to pay off in a different way. Like this season was all about just seeing her escape and survive. Like now we need to see her live. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to seeing that next season.
Same. I agree. Like I want to see more of her actually being able to somewhat thrive. Obviously, like we know back then, like it was very difficult for Indigenous tribes and Native Americans to do so just because of everything that was inflicted upon them by the government and by these Indigenous schools. But I want to see more of her story again, like flesh out, is she Thomas's ancestor? Is she not? And just kind of see what happens with this new romantic interest with her dad. Just I can assume, just because it's a Yellowstone franchise and like everybody always dies or goes through trauma, like there's going to be a lot more trauma that's inflicted upon her and like their family. But I want to see more of that character than just only like trying to survive.
Another thought that I had too regarding Tiona and the Rainwater storyline is that it looks like to me that the Duttons and Teonna or the Rainwater is not going to meet in this incarnation of this storyline. Do you think, and either one of you guys can jump in and answer this question, do you think that this storyline with Teonna would have been better served as a solo spinoff series? Because it doesn't seem like the Duttons and the Rainwater are going to meet in this timeline.
I wouldn't say so. I think it works. I think the thing that's kind of tainted, I guess, the storyline is like 20 years ago. This would have been an excellent storyline to follow, because our collective consciousness about seeing these stories through the lens of somebody's like deep traumatic pain was different, right? Like now we're hyper aware about, these things. Like I didn't want to watch those women whip each other. 20 years ago, like I may not have found pleasure in it, but my palate would have been a lot emptier for like I'm more ready for that. And like now I'm beyond that. Like I don't want to watch that. And I didn't want to see all the things that happened to Tiona because we're just older and smarter enough to, feel much more of a cathartic reaction to those things, right? So I think that's the thing that's kind of tainted it, but ultimately her story is a story of like survival and building something. And we think we know where this, eventually leads to with Thomas, and I think it kind of works side to side with the Duttons because their thing is like something that's being torn down and they may have to rebuild. Like it's about building, right? I think that's the whole premise behind the show is like, how did, the Yellowstone get to what it is now, right? what were the steps and the bricks that were laid to get there. So I think her story, fits there. It's just that we have to get through all the pain beforehand.
Marcy, what are your thoughts on Tiona's storyline? Do you think it was better served as a solo series, or are you fine with it being in this 1923 series with the Duttons?
I think it would be interesting to see that as a standalone spin-off series. I think there would definitely be a lot of storylines that he could pursue again, because there is so much history there. It's just not told, right? It's not told in, mainstream entertainment typically. I would hope that there would be a place for it, but I also think that a lot of audiences probably would shun away from it, either because it's uncomfortable for them, and a lot of people right now don't want to see a lot of things that are uncomfortable simply because it makes them feel some type of way. And there's all these backlashes now about well, I don't want to see that because it makes me feel sorry for being white or whatever,
like slavery. Every fucking year we get a new slave movie.
Yeah, people just don't want to see it again. They're like, well, yeah, we know that they went through stuff, but we don't want to see it. It makes us uncomfy. So I think there probably would be a lot of that. It would be interesting to see if maybe they change their direction. So if maybe somehow they're wait, let's not go south to the Comanche reservation, because that's maybe where they'll start looking. Maybe if they reroute and go north to Montana, that's how they could eventually meet the Duttons in season 2 and just kind of see how their storylines kind of mesh. I think that could be interesting as well. So I think there's a lot more story to tell in season 2 for Tiona. I really hope that they invest in her story for next season. And yeah, it could definitely be a standalone spinoff.
The reason I brought that up, because with the impending return of Spencer, the ranch being in peril with everything going on with that, Harrison Ford's character, they better do a just job of giving Tiona and her people enough airtime, because it looks like shit's gonna hit the fan in season 2, just with the Duttons and the ranch alone. So with that being said, with only having 8 episodes to cover that, and actually find out this family tree of where did John Dutton III come from, and all this, it's a lot to unpack, and I don't want them to do a disservice of cutting short Tiona's storyline. That's my only concern. Now, if you can find somewhere to fit that in 8 hours of television, cool. I have no problem with it. So, but I think Tiona's story and the Native American story is rich enough to have its own standalone series. When it comes to people feeling uncomfortable and about oppression, Hollywood has no problem giving Oscars away to the 12 Years a Slave movies and all these fucking Selma and all these damn movies that come every damn year about slavery and civil rights movement and all that kind of stuff. I think Native Americans, their story needs to be told in full, because not a lot of people know about it, especially in America, about what happened. We talk about Thanksgiving and how the Native Americans and the Pilgrims were in harmony, all that kind of bullshit. But accurate history needs to be told on film and on the small screen about what happened to the indigenous people of this country.
I agree. And I think sorry, Frank, don't mean to interrupt, but it's also interesting because Mo is one of the, he's a collaborator, a consultant for 1923. So Mo, who we know and love from Yellowstone. So I think having him on board as their consultant and their Native American, the voice for Native American storytelling on their team, I think is very important, because he's there to make sure that the stories are told, they're told accurately, they're told respectfully. So I'm glad that they have him on board to just kind of really help elevate those concerns.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Let's talk about a smaller known character that didn't get much screen time until the last episode and a half, and that's Zane. Zane is my boy Zane is he's one of the right hand men of Jacob Dutton. Apparently he has a wife and kids, Asian wife and kids, which in today's time wouldn't mean anything, but back then it was illegal to marry a white man to marry a white person to marry outside of his race, intermixing and things of that nature. So, Tristan, what was your thoughts, man, about Zane's storyline, man? And was it kind of random to you, man, about him getting such airtime in the last episode?
On first watch, it was a little random, but the more I thought about it, one, they kind of set it up like a Godfather thing, like thing like the little montage where Michael, takes care of his father's business, whatever. Because I think the Banner Whitfield play is to kind of cut the Duttons off at their knees, right? And Zane is one of those kind of peripheral guys, but he's still important, right? He's kind of like I said, he's a right-hand guy for Jacob. So you take him out, or take him out the picture, that's an extra layer of protection that the Duttons don't have on the muscle side. But I thought outside of serving that purpose of crippling the Duttons a little bit, I thought his storyline in this episode also played the larger purpose of this continuing motif of the future, right? Innovation. And so when he comes home, they're at the dinner table, at the table with his wife and kids, and his wife's talking about Montana State University getting a radio station. And he's like, okay, and he can't even explain what a radio is, what radio waves are. All that's left to his wife to explain. She has the institutional knowledge of these things that he just doesn't have. You see the clashing, I guess, the contrast of these two worlds, where his whole world is in this rural cowboy ranch life, and out here in the more civilized world, quote unquote, the more urban world, there's all these things moving in. Either you're going to accept that the future is coming in and adjust, which Jacob is having to learn the hard way, or you're going to be out to pasture, right? Because the future is coming.
I think the Zane storyline was more about Donald than Zane. I think it was to show the viewers how far Donald would go to have a stranglehold on the ranch, how far he will go to strip his people of this ranch and to get what he wants, which is progression of the 20th century, and to pretty much move with the times. And anybody who is stuck behind the times are going to get left behind. I think Zane was just a casualty of war. We don't know what's going to happen to Zane going to season 2, but to have him spied on, that was a military move by Donald to take away Jacob's strongest weapons that he has available to him right now. Marcy, what was your thoughts on Zane's storyline so far, and did it come up as random to you, or did it appease you?
It kind of did, and it ended a little bit better than I expected. When they're surveilling him, I thought, oh shit, they're gonna shoot up this man and his family, and it's gonna wreck me. So luckily that didn't happen. But again, we still see shit that went down 100 years ago, that we think of as normal now. Back then they're well, a white person can't marry somebody outside their race. This is illegal, and now we're going to throw your wife in jail. So again, that's just showing a lot of the really fucked up shit that was legal back 100 years ago. Again, perpetuating the a woman having to go through trauma to advance this storyline. What I think might happen next season is maybe Donald using this against Zane, maybe to turn Zane to be able to get some leverage on Jacob, right? It might test Zane's loyalty to say, okay, we'll help your wife, but now you have to either turn on the Duttons or just kind of be our spy or something like that. So I think it's going to play a big part in next season.
I think so too. Let's talk about Donald, man. Let's talk about Mr. Sadist himself. So the episode before, he had two of I won't say Braun, Banner's whole whores with him, And he did something that I did not expect. He pretty much had one prostitute beat the hell out of the other prostitute with a belt buckle. And I had a problem with this episode because it was more of the same. If you're writing a character profile of a villain or an antagonist, you have to be careful of beating a character trait with a dead horse. Meaning that we already saw his fixations and what he's into. Seeing another 10-minute clip of it in the very next episode to me was redundant. I didn't understand that. Like, we know he's fucked up. We know he's a sadist. We know he's twisted. Just turn the tables and having another prostitute go from the giving to receiving end of what he's into was just redundant. Tristan, am I going too far by saying that? What are your thoughts on that?
I second all of that. I couldn't finish that particular scene. Like, once you get into like the screams and such, like, if Taylor Sheridan has a blind spot, he is, cowboy guy. You know what I'm saying? If he has a blind spot, it is his unwillingness to see how, like, it's his stomach for violence against women, right? Or to show it in such graphic manners and like just to have itself extended. Like, it's not necessary. We don't need to keep seeing Tiona keep getting punched in her face 4, 5, 6 times. Why? Like, how's her whole facial structure not broken? You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't need to see him beat her cousin like that, like for so long, like it is. We get it, right? Like, at this time period, I mean, in general, a lot of men are sadistic, right? We get that. I think seeing it once per character is enough. You know what I'm saying? So I second all that. On the second watch, I just skipped through the entire scene altogether. Like, whatever I need to get from that scene, I think I got. So that's all I got on that.
Marcy, what were your thoughts on that? Do you think that scene was kind of redundant from the previous episode?
Yes, and I agree with what, both of you have said. And Tristan and I talked about this last week is, did we really need to see it to that extent to know like how ruthless Donald can be? I don't think so. But it did really just kind of let us see like how sadistic he can be, right? Like, when I forgot her name, one of the sex workers comes down and, Donald asks Banner if he wants to join. Banner gets like this very scared look when he sees the scared look in the sex worker's face. So even Banner was like, I'm not down for this shit. I'm leaving. I'm going to go, to my wife. So I think that goes to show like Banner will do things to get even with the Duttons and to get revenge. Like, that is his motivation. Donald's motivation is to just be sadistic, to just be ruthless, to be a businessman, to like pretty much like kill or like steal or just screw anybody over for no reason, just because he is a businessman and he wants to make money. We know that Banner's motivation was just, in the beginning, he just wanted to like find some land where his sheep could graze. Like, that's it. Like, he didn't set out to like be this terrible person and to kill all the Duttons. So I think that kind of is shown throughout these 2 episodes where you just kind of see that Donald is just a morally corrupt person. Again, it, perpetuates this violence against women that we do see so much in Taylor's shows and in movies. But what I thought was also interesting is that whenever he's explaining to the ladies that like, this is why I like it, I don't get pleasure from, actually like seeing it. Like, I want you to get pleasure from the power of like you being able to make somebody else hurt. I just thought it was interesting how he went so much into detail about explaining that. And then for him to turn the tables and to say like, okay, like now you've been inflicting pain and you showed no mercy towards her. Now, when she's the one that's holding the belt and is able to whip you, she's not going to hold back either because you weren't able to show mercy to her. So I thought that was just kind of interesting to show. And it made me think of, I equate that to women now who are so intent to maybe vote or support things that go against, like, betterment of women's lives, that go against the interest of women, just because of their proximity to power, which is always like the white man. I think that's what happens, right? Like, just because you're close to the power and you can be close to inflicting the pain and even inflicting the pain yourself, the tables are always going to turn and you're also going to get fucked. So that's what it kind of painted the picture of for me. It's like, this is what happens when you wield power. Like, you're also going to just end up getting fucked up.
But I think also, like, to extend that further, I think that scene or his, sadistic pleasures that they're showing us is indicative of his larger business ideology, which is not like getting rich just to make things better. It's not getting rich to, I don't even think he cares about his family. I think just like with the things that he takes pleasure in, like he does business just to do it, right? He wants to get the ranch just to get it, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's competition. Exactly. Like it's like that ruthlessness extends to every part of his life, right? Like, and it's just doing it just for the sake of doing it. I'm a businessman. This is what happens. Like, there's no feelings, there's no emotion or anything. And I think that's what they're trying to illustrate for us. I just wish, we didn't have to, hear all the screams to get there.
Yeah, that could have been better conveyed in this series. I'll give you an example of like a subtle conveying of like how women are treated in a scene where Kara is like trying to interview livestock agents, right? And like one of the guys is like, "How dare you question me? How dare you, carry this interview like you're a man?" I can deal with that because that's, for one, it's accurate for that time being, and two, it's not as brutally as brutally as it is beating somebody senselessly, whether it's Tiona or a sex worker.
We get the feeling that Kara feels without her having to suffer in some type of way.
Exactly. That's thanks for closing that up.
You're on mute now. You're on mute.
Sorry. Speaking of Donald, we find out that Jacob he paid off a loan a while back for the cattle, but he's still in debt as far as paying off I don't know if it's the mortgage or like the taxes on the ranch for the end of the year. And he goes to the bank and he's trying to lease out, to get another lease on another line of credit. And we find out that Donald pays off that credit. What are your thoughts on that, Marcy, and with Donald doing what he did for the long-term goal of getting that ranch?
I mean, like, he alluded to us, so we knew it was coming because he told Banner, like, you want to fight, and like, what for? Like, we can just fight with a pen. Like, it's easy. All we have to do to take his land away, we don't have to like kill him or like send other people to be killed. We can do it the legal way, just pay the back taxes, and that's how we can get the deed to the land. So we knew that it was coming. And like, I mean, we could even see when Jacob is in the bank, they're telling him they can't do anything for him. There's a worker at the bank who looks like he's shady and is feeding this information to either Donald or one of his associates. So I think that's also going to play a major part in season 2, just seeing like, is Jacob able to get the money to pay this off in order to keep his land from going to Donald? Or is it going to go to Donald for a period of time? And then like, will the rest of season 2 be like how they're able to get it back?
This reminds me of the Boltons taking Winterfell. Shit. Damn.
Facts.
What a time, man. What a time to be alive. This is all about, again, the changing times, right? Like, first, Jacob goes to the bank really trying to get a handshake deal, right? Like, because that's the way things have always been done. And, the banker lets him know, like, actually, things are not like that anymore. Like, actually, we need things that are much more tangible, much more viable, things that can be bet on, and Jacob has to come to that reality, or he has not come to that reality yet. He's starting to come to it. It's like, hey, he keeps saying, like, back in my day, we would have done things like this. You see it the same with John now, right? Back in my day, we just, handshake, or hey, we walked across each other's office. We didn't have to go through secretaries. We didn't have to do all these things. No, like, actually, this is not how things work in this world now, right? Like the Duttons, all, regardless of era, live in this bubble of, like, these, communal bonds and stuff like that. And that's just not how it is in these big cities, in just the world in general, right? So Jacob is still trying to fight this in a fair way, right? And Whitfield's not playing fair. And Banner is so hung up on, revenge and just vengeance in general, that he doesn't even know how to play fair. So what we're going to see in season 2 is either the Duttons are going to have to adjust how they fight, right? And understand that, we have to kind of lean into some of these innovations and just the change in times in order to keep this land, or they're going to have to bring Whitfield and Banner down to where they are, you know what I'm saying, and the way that they want to fight. So we'll see. I do want to talk about Banner real quick in Whitfield, and a conversation that they had in Whitfield's house, or Banner's, one of them, Whitfield's house, because that was an interesting conversation to me. Banner, who just cannot really be tamed, because at his heart, he's a poor ass shepherd, right? Who's come across a little bit of money, and he thinks that little bit of money makes him rich, and he thinks it gives him power, it gives him influence. And Whitfield's really quick to let him know that, hey,
money that's borrowed, by the way.
Exactly. You have nothing, right? The little money you have is nothing, right? There's something bigger. So I think the key conflicts that I can't wait to see Nick in season 2 is this conflict between Banner and Whitfield, of this guy who wants to shoot it out because that's all he knows, and a guy who's, a ruthless businessman who has no emotion. So, like, he wants to fight with the pen. He wants to fight with the lawyers, with his connection. So I'm interested to see how that ends. I think I know how it's going to end for both of them, but I'm interested to see, where that conflict leads and how the Duttons, maybe take advantage of that.
Going back to Jacob, I want to make this point real quick, because I'm not old by the stretch of imagination. I think he mentioned in the show he's 77, either in this episode or the previous episode. So that means you lived through the Civil War, you lived through the industrial age, and even now, your brother fought in the Civil War. I don't understand why a guy who's seen so much in the last 55 years is still trying to push against change, when your life has been an example through eras of change. Like, you've seen 3 metamorphical events in American history: the gold rush, the Civil War, industrialization. Like, you've seen all of this. Why at 77 you're still trying to fight this when you've seen nothing but change your whole life? And I don't understand that. And I get he's old, but since you was young, you saw change. Why are you trying to, like, do handshake deals in 1923 when you've clearly seen these things evolve over time and evolve by the masses, not just regionally, but by the masses as America has expanded from the eastern to the western frontier?
I think that's just part of human nature, Frank. I think we see a lot of older people now, like Gen Z will say, okay, boomer, like, a lot of older people now are like, man, I remember how it used to be, and things used to be so much easier, and I used to be able to do this, and I used to be able to buy a house, like, for $20,000, and I, just worked, a crappy.
They still buy that house at $225 if they have to. They're not fighting against, like, hey, I'm gonna put up a protest that says sell houses at $35,000 a piece now. And yes, I get what you're saying. People complain, talk about the grand old days and all that, but while they're complaining, they're adjusting. You see what I'm saying? Like, he's complaining and not adjusting. my grandmother lived to 75, and she hated that landlines weren't a thing anymore. She had to get a cell phone, but guess what? She got a cell phone because she needed to text her grandkids and talk to her loved ones. So I think that's about the difference with Jacob and like the average proverbial person who's getting old and fighting against change. It's like physically fighting against change.
Well, the Duttons are not really fighting against change. They're fighting against change that affects them, right? It's a really self-serving thing because, I mean, look at their house.
Jacob didn't want to buy a car.
But eventually, like Kara is leading him to like some of these things that they're going to have to do. And just like the cell phone, that's a thing where you either adapt or you die. You don't really have a choice. The things that they're fighting against the most on are things that affect their family, their livelihood, so on and so forth. I'm saying it's really self-serving, right? Like, because they accept change in certain ways. Kara has no problem,
buying a washing machine, getting the car.
Buying a washing machine, or hey, covering up the fact that Jacob Jack was having basically a child out of wedlock. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there are ways that they're progressive, right? But there is really self-serving in the ways that. So like the things that Jacob, the changes he hates the most are the ones where he benefited from the ways things were. He benefited from those handshake deals. That's something that directly affected the livelihood of his family and the ranch. So, like I said, it's really self-serving. Like they're not really against change. They're against change that goes against the Duttons.
And you bring up a good point, Tristan. Sorry, Frank, just real quick.
Go ahead.
You bring up a good point. A lot of the people that are the loudest about like things are changing and I hate how things are changing, it's typically people who have always benefited from things and they don't like to see that change because that change means that they feel that there's less power for them, less resources for them. So I think it's also interesting. He is an old white man. Like he's always been used to being able to, like Tristan said, make a handshake deal and everything is fine. And like you give your word and it's like, oh, Jacob Dutton, like, yes, like we'll do a deal for you. He doesn't like the change because it's not benefiting him.
Yeah, that's a good point too. This show does a great job, and like the main show, Yellowstone, it does a great job of like trying to make you feel sorry for these like rich white folks who are like going self-serving and don't want to go through change. The Yellowstone's worth probably in that time hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is probably millions in today's financial market. So for Taylor Sheridan to create this like world to where we kind of like feel sorry for the hero and like he's fight for the little guy. Motherfucker, Jacob Dutton is not the little guy. Jacob Dutton owns a good portion of Montana right now. Back in those days as we speak. So, but no, those are very compelling points about the self-servingness of Jacob Dutton and the Dutton family in general. I want to talk about Spencer and Alex. So I'm for one. I love Spencer. I love Alex. They're two of my favorite characters on the show. I'm getting to a point where this is becoming ridiculous now. It makes me not want to be in love. It makes me not want to fight for love. I mean, that's what
did it.
No, that's what did it. No, like this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Season one alone. These motherfuckers got attacked, got railroaded by an elephant. They got strung up in trees, waiting for lions and hyenas to eat them. Fucked around and drowned in a tugboat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Got approached by an angry ex-boyfriend. I'm sure I forget from other things that happened just long.
The captain of said tugboat died.
Yeah, the captain of said tugboat died. He probably had some type of blood disorder or some type of cancer or whatever. It's like, bro, like you're going through all of this just to be with this woman. Like this is ridiculous. Like she might die by the time you get to Montana. Like, is it worth it all in the end? Like, is it just me, or is this storyline of them going through all this shit getting ridiculous? Marcy, I'm sorry with you.
Yes, it is getting ridiculous. I will answer that part. But on the contrary, for me, it was not nice because it was like heartbreaking. But when she finds out that they're getting him off the boat and she's trying to run and trying to catch up to him, and she knows she can't, like he's already in the ocean on the little dinghy and she's still on the ship. You know, and she's like, I'll find you. Like that made me choke up a little bit. I think when you've been able to like find like a love that you feel so strongly about, even when it ends badly or it doesn't last forever, it's not the fairy tale that you thought it was going to be. I think like just experiencing that like is still very special. So that just kind of got me in my emotions. But yes, no, it's ridiculous everything that they've had to go through. So can they finally like please get to Montana by at least episode 2 of next season? And like, yes, I just want her to get back to London, be able to get to the States and get back to Spencer because this is getting ridiculous. And we also see her be a little bit seasick. Is she seasick or is she morning sick? We don't know. Like there's a lot more story there.
And also, as you mentioned, you know, the family I'm creating or family. Yeah. Do I think it's ridiculous? Yes. Do I think it's ridiculous? No. Let me explain. I think it's ridiculous because, you know, if all these things happen in real life, I would tell if you ran away with a woman in Africa and all those things happened for you just to get back to the States, I would say, you know what? I think the universe is saying that ain't the one for you. So yes, it is ridiculous because it's a lot of ridiculous shit. Like, what are the odds? You know, just of the elephant and the lion. Like, what are the odds? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the odds are very high being in the safari, literally open land.
Yeah. But that's because of the elephant. You know what I'm saying? So like, do I think it's ridiculous enough to detract from the story? No, I love it. I love seeing like this budding romance, you know, now married, you know, I love seeing that. I love seeing that there's nothing that's keeping them apart. And maybe they don't, you know, make it. I think she will, hopefully, you know, I'm hoping, but maybe if not. I agree with everything Marcy said about like having experienced Alex, regardless if she makes it to Montana, regardless if they live a long, happy life on the Dutton Ranch, it's changed Spencer. And I think Spencer needed that change. So I don't think, regardless of what happens with Alexandra, now again, she's my favorite character on the show, right? So I'm rooting hard for Alexandra. Regardless of what happens to her in the end, Spencer can't be who he needs to be in order to change the trajectory of that family without him meeting Alex. Like, but
if he loses her on this trek back to Montana, I can make an argument he'll regress back to, if not worse than what he was before he met Alex.
That's a great point. It may be, but at the very least, that would give him a center to come back to, right? That he did not have before her. Like, so, hey, maybe, you know, on his road back to Montana, like he, you know, some other type of tragedy befall, you know, happen. Like, maybe it would make him regress, but maybe he wouldn't have that center of love to come back to. I think Alex is the center for him now. Before it was, you know, he was kind of aimless. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was, I'm sure some type of survivors get PTSD, the trauma from childhood. Like, that's, for all we know, that's the majority of his life. We don't really know how much pleasure and joys and happiness that he found before Alexandra. We just don't know, right? Like, she's the version of happiness that we see from Spencer, the only thing that we have to kind of go off. So I hope she makes it for all of our sakes, namely me, like, selfishly. Love Alexandra. She's an amazing character. But I think, like I said, Spencer cannot be who he needs to be in the long run without having gone through, and hopefully continue to go through this experience with Alexandra.
I hope Alex survives, man, because I don't want to see a scorched earth version of Spencer if she doesn't make it to Montana. I love these two characters. I could have done with at least two of these crazy events throughout the season. I could have done with the tugboat shit, and I could have done without the the hyenas or the lions, or if not both. It's just
the tugboat was excessive. Like, we don't have to do this. We
like,
really.
What are the odds in 1923 a tugboat rolls over, about to sink, and you find a way to contact?
It hits two. Well, you pass through two ghost ships because they passed through one and barely made it.
Yeah,
and then hit another one. Like, what are the odds of that shit?
What are the odds of that, and with a sick ass captain? Come on, fam. Like, this is like y'all doing too much of this shit. Like, I could have done without that part. But so do y'all think Alex was pregnant, or do you think that's just like motion sickness?
I mean, I hope she is, because then that would give us a little bit more of a hint as to where, like, who John III's ancestors are. I mean, maybe it's possible. I hope so.
I think some breadcrumbs. If she is, then we've seen some breadcrumbs. There's so many references about our son, even like, again, from when we see them, having sex in the safari, like in the jungle. Like, she makes mention then, like, there's mentions of our family. So many mentions of family and stuff like that. So it's very possible.
Even in this episode, she was making jokes about them consummating after dinner.
Right. Like, I give it. I'm 70-30 pregnant.
Oh, that's high. That's high.
Yeah, I'm 70-30 pregnant. Go ahead, because I have a short rant that I want to make.
Okay, I think she's pregnant only because the two sides of the same coin. We found out that that Jack's fiance, or Jack's wife, lost her baby. So I don't think they show the breadcrumbs of Alex, just on, if not showing the tragic loss of Jack's wife's baby.
Hey man, 10 out of 10 monologue by Jack. Jack came the fuck through.
Let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about that. I, for one, had issues with Jack all season long with the lack of maturity, and for him to come up with this 30, 10, and 10 in Game 7 in the finals, like I was surprised by that. Yeah,
3 homers, 8 RBIs, like that motherfucker. He came through like it was just a level of like big picture understanding. Like I didn't expect it, and he said the right things. I think he completely changed like her mood. Like, she went from back turn to, rolling over and rolling into his arms and like laughing, like in such a traumatic, point in her life. I think what he said is kind of like those things that become like the catalyst in somebody's life. Like, after this, she became this, right? Because all she thought her life was about was making a family, you know what I'm saying? And he did a great job of letting her know that purpose is, you choose your purpose. Like, go do something. Like, go, you don't have to like just be restricted to that thing. So 10 out of 10. Yeah,
thug tears were shed when because that was Kara speaking through Jack. Like, that's what that was. Like, because like Jack has showcased a lot of like ignorant, idiot type performances throughout the season, and for him to say that and use Kara as an example, like, look, my aunt never had kids, and she was a mother to me and my brothers, and that was her purpose, to be a mother to the motherless, and she came through it. And for him to say that, and it really made me sad that she felt like she was a failure. That would fuck me up the most. Like your only goal as a wife is to give kids. If you don't give kids, you're a failure. And I'm glad that he didn't come from the standpoint of like, well, shit, we'll try again. Like, he came from the standpoint of like, look, it's just not our time. This is nature taking its course. It's okay. I love you. You're my destiny. You're my love. That was dope as fuck.
Yeah.
And that's an old way versus new way thinking. Again, like, larger theme. Like, her thing is, this is what I'm meant to be, and his thing is like, nah, actually, we can be more progressive than that. Like, let's think beyond that. So again, that's just in keeping with the overall theme of this season. I know we're wrapping soon. Let me go on a short rant about our favorite incel, R.I.P., Mr. Arthur, the Earl of fucking Sussex. I wrote that in my notes. I said the Earl of fucking Sussex. Oh my God. Oh, Spencer, you fucked up on that one. Jeez. Okay, slight rant. No, it's not even a rant, but I just want to talk about how whack this motherfucker is, man. Like, I should have done like a live like note taking of like my Arthur thoughts. But at some point I wrote like, man, Arthur is determined to lose. His dad said, hey, you're gonna lose your dignity and your woman. And I wrote in my notes, Arthur is determined, in all caps, Arthur is determined to lose his dignity. And he ended up losing his life, right? Like, like this week, like just cowardice on every single fucking level, right? You know, intentionally bumping into it. Like, what are you doing, man? You could be cooler than that, right? Like trying to, well, really only reason he provoked Spencer enough is because he, again, used a woman to get to Spencer. You fucking coward, right? Got his ass. Like, how many times do you have to get your ass whooped to understand that this is not the fight for you? Are you trying to die? This reminds me of what Lady Olenna said. Like, women do our best to keep men out of the graves, man, and they do everything in their power to dive into the graves. Like, what the fuck, fam? He said, I kill for a living. That means you walk away, okay? Walk the fuck away.
Yes.
And he ended up swimming, you know, swimming with the fishies, man. So rest in peace to Arthur, you weak ass, incel ass man. We hardly knew you.
This is what
Alex made a great decision, and you only proved that further in your attempts to, I don't know what the fuck. You think you want to win her back? Is that what, like, just a little bit of cowardice? That's what you thought was going to happen? Come on, man.
About honor, I guess, but now you, I guess, died with honor, but not really. I mean, people are going to, like, laugh about you. Yeah, I thought that was crazy. Like, the things that people do for honor, like, all of the shit that has gone down in, like, world history because somebody was defending their honor, when it's like, just like turn the other cheek, just like shut them out. Yeah, like I think Spencer's theme song for this episode was like party up. Like when I was watching this, I was like, Oliver's some dumb shit. Like, ain't that some shit? Like, that's what DMX told us. Like, Arthur, you are stupid. Like, you could have just like had another woman. Like, you're rich. You're part of like the royal family. I think they're like royal adjacent. Like, you don't need this. You don't need Alex. Just like give up. But no, he had to like try to like preserve his honor, and he ended up getting like thrown off the boat. And I mean, I laughed, I hollered when I saw that. Like, that was like the best part of the episode for me. So it was just kind of stupid that, you know, Spencer.
That shit looked like Thor throwing Rocket the Raccoon out of, like, with one arm off the fucking boat. It was effortlessly. And so did he die? I thought I saved him.
They threw a life raft, but I don't think they saved him.
It's a very tall ship. Like, the ship is very tall. It's got very like big propellers and motors underneath. They're probably going to pull him under. So I'm assuming like he's probably dead.
And they didn't show him that next morning.
I feel like the father would have been like a lot more distraught. Like, he looked like he was so disappointed in Alex, but like it wasn't like, damn bitch, you know, fucking my son's night. It was more on that vibe, not like
he also knew his son was a bitch. Yeah. He knew that. That was very evident. He knew his son was a bitch, and he was doing his best. He stepped on that sword like, fam, bro,
I'm gonna die.
bro,
you're making me look bad. Like,
exactly. You're making all of us look. You were down 6 touchdowns, and this is the first half.
Family honor is dead. Like, if you keep going, yeah. Like, he didn't care. He's like, I don't give a shit. Like, he deserved it.
Again, he was begging it. Before we wrap, I need to know, how do you roast somebody in British for getting their woman stolen, losing a fight, and then getting thrown off a ship? Somebody.
Mike. And my guy, it was an arranged marriage. You barely knew the chick in the first fucking place. Like, you didn't even know her. Like, just get you another one. Like
her friend is into you. Like, just go date her friend. She's probably rich too. Like, just
It's ego. That's like you said. It's ego, man. Like
Hey,
he got embarrassed. He got embarrassed from the hoes, and he wanted to like try to salvage the situation. That's what it was. And
bloke.
like,
A bloke.
but
Man's got his woman stolen.
but like in all,
trying to run up on him with the knife, with the pistol.
It's a shame, isn't it?
okay.
He had it coming. It was great. I loved it. I like watched it
Oh, shit,
over and over again. It was, yeah, I loved it.
I did too. But no, like in all seriousness, like it's really an homage of like classism, because Spencer's a white man who comes from a well-to-do rugged family. As far as like the archetypes of like financial stability and like standing, he doesn't hold a candle to like British adjacent royal. And you saw it when he gets vehemently attacked by this guy and he throws him off the boat after the fourth or fifth warning, and like the captain and his guards got up there and say, hey, how this happened? Like nobody's saying anything. That just shows you the type of the classism, the influence that the royal family had. And
he's an American. He's not British. Like they don't give a shit. Like if he was British, maybe. But again, like you said, like the real Earl of Sussex of that day was like related to the royal family, part of the royal family. So I guess if they're basing him off of him, like, yeah, like he's part of the royal family too. So of course they were going to listen when he was like, send this guy to the brig and like, remand this woman to her quarters. Like there was nothing like the ship captain could do either. He was going to be like, well, what am I going to do?
Have you forgotten my title? Like that was a thing that was like the final thing. Like, oh yeah, okay, it's time to go. So
yeah, I need the next Earl of Sussex to like not to like have bodyguards to like fight his battles for him. Fam, like you're a royalty. This is not your game, bro. You're not. But he kills for a living. The minute he says I kill for a living, back the fuck off, bro. Go back to your table. Drink your tea.
Alex told her friend, she was like, it's not love, it's not heartbreak, this is pride. You know, and her friend kind of gaslighted with, no, he didn't come out of the camp. Man, you know how many dudes will gaslight you with, man, I was sick, man. I ain't go nowhere. I ain't talk to nobody. Like, it's about action, right? That's if you love and you heartbroken, like that's not how you show love to the person that if you felt something. Like that was about ego.
And you embarrass your family in the process. You embarrass your royal family in the process.
Yeah.
And they got to replace you now. Damn. Parents too old to replace you, man. Like you ended the line right there with some dumb shit. Ain't that some shit? It's gonna be like 911 shit.
Yep.
It's gonna be like fucking like Josephine's uncle's third cousin that's gonna be in line now. But
you lost your woman, man. Shame in it.
Man, let's gonna bring it to close, man. But look, this is a great season, man. I can't wait for season 2. Tristan, Marcy, man, thank y'all all season long for being here, man, and giving y'all input. Again, man, for watching The Basement, we are kicking it up for this year. I think we're 74 episodes in so far from the beginning of this year, so we're getting it in. Follow us on social media, please, at Watchers Basement, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, homegirls, everybody. Give us a 5-star rating. We're also on Anchor, Google, and Spotify. I mean, Anchor, Apple, and Spotify as well. So for myself, for Tristan, for Marcy, this is episode 8 of 1923, season finale. We'll see you on the flip side.
See you later, blokes.